I'm Simon Hartzell, and this is NAI Global's Diving into Commercial Real Estate.
Welcome to another episode of NAI Global's Diving into Commercial Real Estate. Today's episode is Surviving Through Multiple Real Estate Cycles. Today's guest speaker is Steven J. Martens from NAI Martens. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Simon. Great to be with you today.
Yeah, and we appreciate it. And you've got an interesting background in this business of some 44 years, and curious to share with our listeners today. I'm going to give a little background on Steve. Steve has been backed by, again, his 44 years experience in the commercial real estate field, not only with professional designations like SIOR and CCIM, but as one of the leading real estate producers in the Wichita market. His strategic approach to solving real estate problems blends his background of property management, valuation, and sales. So really look forward to discussing your history and thoughts, challenges, and where you see yourself going, continuing in the business. So again, welcome, Steve, and let's start off with telling us a little bit of your background and history of being in this business.
I'll be happy to. Like so many others that are in this business, my father and my grandfather, his dad, were in the real estate business. So when I received my undergraduate degree from University of Kansas in 1975, having grown up in odd jobs in high school and college, working on properties, different assignments for my dad, knew that I had real interest in commercial real estate. Where I became very lucky was about the same time that I came back to Wichita from graduation. Wichita State University had created a real estate department, and a direct disciple of James Graskamp, who was well known at the University of Wisconsin, had moved to Wichita to set up this program. And really had the opportunity to kind of get my horizons greatly broadened. Individual's name, Lynn Woodward, focused on two areas, investment and valuation. And so it was in those areas that my interest in investment real estate and my interest in how we value real estate came about. And when I first started, my focus was property management, and that's where I got my CPM designation. Property management was interesting, but I knew that was not a full-time career path I wanted to pursue, and became interested in investment and valuation, and from there followed with my CCIM designation, and then once I got the point of a book of business to be eligible for the SIOR, joined the Society of Industrial and Office Realtors, and that's been a great affiliation as well. I also, Simon, have state appraisal credentials. I am a state certified appraiser and went through that process, which was a result of the savings and loan crisis from the 80s, and have found that knowledge and that designation and professional knowledge very helpful in my commercial real estate career.
Now, how you brought up a lot of interesting designations, and how do you feel they have been applicable to your business? It seemed like a progression over the years that you picked up on acquiring these, but how did you feel they warranted and worked into your day-to-day business?
Well, they were very important to me, and I think to anybody today, particularly those that maybe are under 40 or 45 and in their career, it's critical, I believe, to have credentials in today's business environment. And certainly the CCIM designation is an excellent credential for an individual to have. SIOR is great as well, as the CPM designation, Certified Property Manager, or MAI, Member Appraisal Institute, or other CRE, the Council for Real Estate, other professional designations. But to me, it's the graduate program that an individual would pursue in becoming a complete commercial real estate professional and an advisor.
And you didn't get these all at once. You acquired them over your 44-year career. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay. Yeah. So some of our listeners that maybe are thinking about gaining one of these designations or all of them don't have to feel overwhelmed by, oh, I got to go out tomorrow and get them all. They can try to get them over time.
You're absolutely right. And when I was getting these designations early in my career, so money was tight, married with a young family, so being gone away from home for even more time and out of town was difficult. It is a challenge and a commitment though that one needs to make and kind of in their professional planning.
Perfect. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit, and from your experience, how did you come into a leadership role there at your current firm, NAI Martens?
Well, my mentor was my father, and he was committed to having me progress as quickly as possible through the organization. So I actually became president of the family business in 1983. In 2000, we had the opportunity to affiliate with Grubb & Ellis, which was an interesting organization, a great affiliation at the time. Of course, they did not fare well in the 08-09 recession. And from there, I had the opportunity. I, of course, knew David Blanchard, but had the opportunity to meet Jay Olshansky, and became very clear that NAI was the perfect organization for us. So in late 2011, our brokerage entity became affiliated with NAI Global.
So I guess the takeaway I'm hearing from you is grab onto a mentor. If it's a family member, if it's another professional, if it's somebody that maybe you can lean on that has history, expertise, might help for somebody that's maybe not even an owner of an organization, but somebody that's maybe a younger agent looking to grow within the industry.
Absolutely. I was so fortunate in my early career and really throughout my career to be acquainted with some of the great business leaders in our city, and the opportunity to observe them. I got very involved in not-for-profit activities and civic activities that gave me access to them on the various boards and committees. So was able to observe them in a variety of situations and environments, learned a lot from them, and a few developed a relationship to where we actually could meet for breakfast or get together over coffee and just kind of talk through various items. So I think that's a key component. And while I was fortunate to have my father in the commercial real estate business, many of my other mentors were successful business and professional people, but not necessarily commercial real estate people.
Interesting. So you built relationships outside of the industry, which helped almost as advisors to what you've grown today, which gives you a different perspective. I like that.
It does, and I found it helpful because as a commercial real estate advisor, part of our task is to understand our clients and their requirements and business needs. And if you don't study the different business models that are out there and how different executives function and operate, you can waste an awful lot of time trying to connect with a client. But if you go in informed and have some idea as to how their business operates or what's going on, I think your chance of success is much higher.
Well, this industry really allows an entrepreneur to operate a business within a business and grow their own personal organization. So there's no set path or ingredients to how you can do this. That's the beauty of being in real estate. So commend you for carving out your own path here.
Well, thank you. Well, it is, and I think that we probably, those of us in the industry, don't stop and realize how fortunate we are with the opportunities that this industry provides, and the ability for entrepreneurial development and growth, and whether it's team building or company building or individual branding. There's just, we really have all the opportunities available to us that in corporate America you probably not to the same degree that we have.
Agree. Well, let's kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about the cycles and the markets that you've experienced, which to this point in our conversation, everything sounded great, but I'm assuming you've been through some challenges in the last 44 years.
When I look back at some of those, it kind of makes me wonder how I got through them and why I'm here today. But no, there have been several. When I in the 70s, of course, is when we got into prime. I think at 21% was the high water mark, and it was just it was just terrible. I mean, it was from a capital requirement standpoint, it was just very difficult to make anything happen. Obviously, if you were fortunate enough to have a ton of cash in the bank, you could get a CD at 12 or 14% and live high on the hog. But from a capital requirement side, it was very challenging, and it took several years to get that worked down more to a normal level of interest rates. And then I think it was in Reagan's second term, we went through the Tax Reform Act, which essentially changed all the depreciation rules and all the significant rules on commercial real estate almost overnight. And just to make sure that it was particularly painful, it also became retroactive. And so there was a lot of pain and agony in the national market there. Also, then I don't know why so many things happened in the 80s, but it was a challenging time for commercial real estate. State of Kansas went through a reappraisal classification process for property tax and came to the conclusion that commercial real estate could pretty much pay for everything. And so again, overnight, people that own commercial buildings, their property tax bills went up by 3, 4, 5 times in a year. And depending upon the lease terms that you had or what you were locked into, there were a lot of challenges. And then, of course, the savings and loan crisis, which was an amazing time. I think what provided the real estate industry a lot of opportunity with that was how the Resolution Trust Corporation dealt with disposing of these assets that the failed savings and loans had loaned money on that they needed to dispose of. There were some great buys, and even though we were in economic turmoil, I think from a commercial real estate brokerage standpoint, there were a lot of good activity, and RTC was Resolution Trust Corporation was very fair in working with companies, and that was a pretty good process. I think the scariest moment in my career, Simon, was 9/11. It just, I mean, everything stopped that morning, and I'm sure you in New York, it was a lot scarier than me out here in Kansas, but nonetheless, what was going to happen next, and what was the stock market going to completely crash? Was this the end of things as we knew it? What all was going to happen? And that the ramifications from that took quite a bit of time to settle down. And then, of course, from there, and again, we had good times in between. I'm just kind of highlighting some of the cycles, but then, of course, the mortgage crash in 08 and 09 and that disaster, that took a lot of really good companies down. which was unfortunate, very challenging and difficult and painful time. We fortunately, at that going through that one, had very little company debt, and I think that was one of the things that really saved us. We had been cautious in getting our debt paid down. We had a very good line of credit. We had a great lender that we banked with, or a bank that we worked with. They had working capital that they would loan to us, which we needed, but we were able to ride through that.
And you bring up a lot of great points, and I know you're talking about some of the challenging times in a cycle, but I think this is a good time to bring up or get your thoughts on how did you or how would you position yourself knowing that times like that are going to come again at some point. What do you do as an organization to prepare yourself?
Well, I think for us, as we got into these situations and saw that it was a major reset in people's thinking, requirements, and really valuation and how people looked at commercial real estate, you have to come out of that with a new look. You're really not able to try to do things that techniques or things before the financial crisis. It's kind of a new day, and you've pushed the reset button and out there, and that's been a strategy that has worked well for us. You stay active in the down times because there are people that have to sell real estate, and there are people that are willing, even in horrible markets, to buy real estate because they're buying it at such a great value they can't not purchase it. But it's what caused the problem, how are things going to be moving forward, and I think in my case, with the exception of, like I said, that first day or two right after 9/11, I knew we were going to come out of all of these. The question was, what would it look like, and what path did we need to go through? So in the gloom and doom, you try to stay as upbeat and positive as possible.
Well, it seems like your reaction time is key to a lot of this. If you're reacting very quickly and kind of moving human capital, moving your business plan and strategy very quickly, then you can take advantage of what's potentially doom and gloom and make it more of an opportunity for your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a mirror of the market, and so depending on the hand that we're dealt, we've got to be able to play that hand and do the best that we can do.
Well, and I'm going to have you look into your crystal ball now, and no, or I should say a disclaimer that nothing's going to be held against you, but we're in a very long recovery. Where do we go from here? What are your thoughts and opinion?
It is difficult to try to factor where we are. Just what was it, Friday? We had an inverted yield curve, which is a major red flag to a lot of economists. It was short in duration, but nonetheless that happened. And of course, the stock market has been in a lot of volatility and at times turmoil. But when you look at employment, the declining employment rate, more people at work, more importantly to me, that more people are coming into the workforce, the participation rate is up, wages are going up, interest rates remain very steady and stable, inflation continues to be held at bay. I think to me there's a lot more positive going forward than there is negative. I don't think
a lot of great signs.
Yeah, I don't think a person can be in the commercial real estate field or a financially related field and not be concerned about the political turmoil that we're faced with and going on. And I think that a lot of what happens in the economy is probably going to be more politically driven than it is just through natural economics and trends. The trade situation is tough. I mean, In Kansas, it's really impacted us because of we're a major soybean producer. That's a challenge. All of the 737 fuselages are built in Wichita. That becomes a challenge. And of course, with the recent 787 MAX issue, you wonder how that will impact the production line and what's going on. So I mean, there are things to be aware of, but I still believe that moving forward, particularly in this interest rate environment, the outlook's very good for commercial real estate. People are more inclined to take a little more risk and invest in real estate because of the better returns that they can get. It's still pretty difficult to feel like you're doing very well, earning 2.5% on your money when a real estate deal before tax can get you up to 9%, and after tax, depending on how your tax situation is, a double-digit return.
So what do you, and it's all great points, and definitely a lot more runway, and there will continue to be runway even when the shift does happen in either direction. It's just keeping your eyes open and reaction time. But what advice do you have for another firm based on your 44 years of experience, and maybe you can sum that up in a couple words? And then it sounds easier said than done, but what's some simple advice that you would give to a firm?
Well, I think speaking to a firm, be sure you have a good handle on your exposure and liability. And by that I mean your revenue stream. What solid revenue stream do you have? In other words, are there ancillary businesses that through good times and bad will generate revenue, such as property management? And how does that measure up to your debt and other labor costs with the organization? I don't think it's time for anybody to pare back. I'm not suggesting that, but I think a business owner or owners need to understand where they are with their firm and kind of where we are in the business cycle.
How about that same question now? I'm a professional working for an organization. What's some advice you would have for a professional, and be it that they've been in it for 44 years or 44 days?
Well, on the 44-year side, I guess to me, I'm finding that time becomes more critical to me, and how I'm spending my time and where I'm spending my time on business transactions, and want to be getting the greatest value for that, but also beginning to recognize that there's other non-work activities that are becoming very important to me, and want to maintain a balance. I think to a new person in the office or the industry, they've got a much different scenario. But I think to team or be with successful advisors, and not so worried about exactly what that individual wants to do today, what kind of product they want to work in, or those things, but just understand how the business works, the deal flow, the elements of a transaction, the elements of the marketing process, getting a deal to closing, and working on that. I think for those new in the industry are critical. And I know that many of the NAI firms have excellent new agent training programs. We have amped ours up, actually started last year, and have what we call a new agent development team. But our new agents meet with Tom Johnson, the president of our brokerage company, and myself every Monday morning at 8:30, and we just basically have a mini sales meeting just with them to go through. And so the point is, I think be sure you're taking full advantage of what your company and our brand offers to people new in the industry.
Interesting, and that's good. You go back to kind of that mentor-mentee type of mentality, and making sure that you leverage tools that you have, but then also the professional knowledge like someone like yourself has and can offer on to young developing professionals.
Yeah, and I think that there's no one right answer. Jeff Beals, as you know, has worked with our organization closely the last couple of years, and he's quick to point out that if the coaching method is what works for your organization, that's great. If the mentor-mentee process is better, or teaming is the best way, I think it's a very individualized process and scenario, but there needs to be some formal plan in place.
Agree. All right, so let's jump into a couple fun questions, Steve. You've just won $100 million tax-free. Where are you investing those monies when it relates to commercial real estate?
I would, from my perspective, and again being from Kansas, would look at a lot of the Midwest and West growth markets, not necessarily the coast, but I think there's a lot of commercial real estate opportunities in industrial and self-storage, to a degree office. I've never really been myself personally much of a retail guy, but there are some nice opportunities there. But you've got in Texas, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, a lot of really nice opportunities to look at and invest.
Good. Okay.
I could spend just a little bit of that $100 million though on something just goofy, right?
Oh yeah. You want to buy the biggest log cabin in the world? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
So outside of the business, tell us a little bit about any hobbies, what you do pastime wise. What do you enjoy doing outside of commercial real estate?
Well, fortunate in that I live in a part of the country that experiences all four seasons and enjoy a lot of outdoor activities. I'm probably the world's worst golfer, but I enjoy getting out playing golf. Love to fish and hunt. In fact, this week's the end of the pheasant season in Kansas, and the weather cooperates, hoping to go out and have one last hunt this season. But to do that, traveling, I have a new granddaughter, first one. She's up in Milwaukee.
Congratulations.
Mom and Dad, so thank you. So needless to say, spending a fair amount of time up in Milwaukee with that. But just like I said, enjoy traveling and a lot of those kinds of activities.
Yeah, that's it. There's more to this business. I mean, there's a lot out there to do, lifestyle wise. So glad you get an opportunity to enjoy it.
Absolutely, and with the advancement in technology, you really are in touch wherever you are. I mean, you can kind of manage how much of your time away you want to work and not work. But it's amazing to me when I'm gone. I can spend an hour to 90 minutes on my computer, and it's amazing what can get done in the day while you've got the rest of the day to spend relaxing and enjoying it.
Agree. Well, this is all great stuff, Steve, but unfortunately we are out of time. I'd like to thank you for being our guest speaker today. And Steve, if folks listening to this want to reach out to you or have any particular questions, how can they get in touch with you?
I think they can either go online, NAI Martens, and my contact information is there. Call or email me. Either one would be fine.
Perfect. Well, again, Steve, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.
And if anyone would like to find out more about becoming a new office with NAI Global, please email us at help@naiglobal.com or call us at 609-945-4047. Thank you for listening.